Hello everyone, Don Quixote Sturson here. Welcome to part 2 of my top 10 favorite restaurant series. I hope you've liked the recommendations I've put up so far. Again, they're just my personal opinion. I do not expect anyone to, agree with me or disagree on anything. This is just an open discussion type of situation. And again, if you have a favorite restaurant you'd like me to look into or you recommend, please leave it down in the comments. I'm excited to try new things. Um, but before I begin, I would like to take a moment to discuss exactly why I decided to go with this series. Um, I have a lot of inspiration when I'm thinking about what my videos are gonna be about. There are too many to even write down. And, originally this was all just gonna be a huge top 10 list. But I realized that it would have taken too long to put into one video. So I decided to split them up into two different sections. That way it was kind of easier to navigate. And, as someone who has been um, really invested in the restaurant industry and the food industry as a whole, this was something that I was really passionate about because at one point I did want to open up my own restaurant. It was a dream I had uh, going out of high school. And part of me would still love to open a restaurant if I ever had the opportunity to. Um, I enjoy the I like everything that a restaurant has to offer. It's not just the atmosphere. It's not just the food. It's a sense of getting to know your community and having someplace safe to eat and converse with your family or friends. And I've been to many different restaurants throughout my years. Uh, I've been through a lot of states: California, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota. There is, I mean, heck, even Montana. There's been a lot of different restaurants that I've had the pleasure of eating over the years. But each and every single one has left their own individual imprint on me. Some of them were good, some of them were not so good. I would never say they don't like a restaurant or hate a restaurant, but some I liked more than others. And so, this was just one of those ones where I felt like I wanted to share my experience with all of you so that you can make an informed decision as if you were ever in any of these areas that had a restaurant like this, then you would be able to check them out and experience it for yourself. And again, these are totally opinion based. These are not fact based. I am not a five-star Michelin chef. I would not be able to make a five-star dish. I'm just a house husband. A good day for me is making baked potatoes and meatloaf, if you can believe it. But, for someone like me, food doesn't have to be fancy and well portioned or, well, not well portioned, but well presented. You could stick a plate of mashed potatoes and Salisbury steak in front of me and I'd be happy. And I think that's what a lot of people who make it big tend to forget. Like when you're just starting out on your own for the first time, you don't have the luxury of selection. You don't have the luxury to be picky about what you eat. You eat what you can get your hands on. You drink what you can get your hands on. And I find it grateful that there are programs out there that help people that are struggling to get food, like SNAP benefits and stuff like that. Because I could remember a time where I was so hungry that I would have eaten the clothes off my back just to be able to stop the hunger. And it's difficult, especially when you're first start again as you're starting out. And for some people it gets better, for others it doesn't. There's a certain point in your life where you have the chance to kind of get things straight. And if it doesn't happen, well, each day you're fighting for you know what you're gonna have next, and it's not easy. But with that being said, and I'm sorry for going off a little bit of tangent there. I just wanted to tell you why I decided to share my experiences. And with that, we are going to get into number 6 on my list. And that restaurant would be the best restaurant ever, Space Aliens. Now, I call it the best restaurant ever because it's kind of like a restaurant and an arcade at the same time. And if you're from the Minnesota, North Dakota area, you might know what this is because I think as of right now there are only two. I would love to see an expansion of it, but as I'm aware of right now, there are only two locations. So right off the bat, when I'm getting into talking about this, I can say for certainty that the atmosphere, A, food, A, customer service, A, selection of souvenirs and stuff, A. Like I have fun just looking at the menu, and I got so excited when I walked up to the doors for the first time in years because it was like all the childhood memories were flooding back to me, and I could just see all the good times I had there playing back in my head. And fun fact about this restaurant, when I first got baptized back in 2001, I believe, I was 8 years old. This is where I decided to hold my baptism. And a lot of friends and family came to show their support. And it made me so happy because, as someone who, especially nowadays when I look back on it, as someone who's as secluded as I am, having that many people come out to support you is a wonderful feeling, and I would never take that for granted. Um, and it it meant a lot to me because it meant that I could see my friends um, during the summer, when we didn't have school. And one of the things that really sticks out to me about this restaurant is that you can actually get like an outer space alien type uh, class to take home with you, and it's just everything about it from the neon colors to the atmosphere and the decorations. It always blew me. I mean, even as an adult, I still love it. Like, okay, in comparison, you've got Space Aliens versus Dave and Buster's. I would go to Space Aliens every single time because it's just got that own personal flair and uniqueness to it. And the food, I find it very hard to say that I have ever had a better burger than the one I've had at Space Aliens. And that is really hard to say because I'm pretty open minded. I like to have everything. I'm not really picky. But when you have food that is just so good, the flavor sticks with you even after you leave the restaurant, there is something to be said for that. And, I remember, I don't think it was this last time, but the time before that, me and my, oh, it was a vacation back in 2018 me and my wife took. I took her to Space Aliens for the first time, and she immediately loved it. It was kind of sad that we only got a couple of number of days there, but at the same time, it made me happy that we had enough money to actually go there and spend because it's one of those things where you don't get to go too often anymore, especially where I live. So, it being able to go back and visit there again, it made me extremely happy. And if I were to recommend it, any burger joint to you, this would be the one because you get a top quality burger, you get delicious fries, the decor is amazing. I don't think I've ever been disappointed by a visit there. And it was some place that a lot of my friends and I used to like going to when I was a kid. Um, and what really makes me happy is the fact that it's even still around. Because, like I said, the pandemic, it has had a great effect on the restaurant industry as a whole. And it is difficult to stay in business with the increased usage of DoorDash and Grubhub and all the competition out there. Like, there's been a huge shift from dine-in restaurants to easy on-the-go restaurants, and in the end, it's had a hard effect on a lot of mom and pop and uh, more localized restaurants like these. And so, when I see a restaurant that has kind of come out of the pandemic in these hard times, still staying strong, I cheer for them. And I would don't think I'd ever stop cheering for this restaurant because it is again one of my personal favorites, and I highly recommend it. Moving on to the next one, we have Red Bear. This is kind of a difficult one to talk about because, again, it is not currently open. So I can't necessarily recommend it to you, but I did want to bring it up because it is a very important restaurant to me. Um, it was a restaurant localized in the Fargo Moorhead area, and it had a beautiful view of the Red River from behind it. It had a beautiful indoor decor, and me and my parents have only ever been there a handful of times, but from the handful of times that I went, it was delicious. I mean, they had in the mornings they would have a breakfast like on Sunday mornings. You would walk in, they would have a little breakfast bar on the side, and then in the afternoons, they have the regular steak menu, burger menu, what have you. And one thing that always stood out to me about this place was its location. And that's kind of one thing that really stands out to me when I'm going to a restaurant. Like, how does it look? On the outside, it looks like your standard steakhouse, but in the inside, it was beautiful. You had a dark red velvet interior with hardwood or hard, softwood flooring or hardwood, depending. I couldn't really tell. I'm not a I'm not a handyman myself, but um, they had the chairs were super comfy, and just being able to stand. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming. Like, this wasn't your average steakhouse. This felt like an upgrade from your average steakhouse. And just looking back on it, I wish we had more time with it, and I wish that there were more around. But I don't remember exactly where it used to be located, but all I know is that it used to be located on the Red River, and it was really important to me as a kid because um, I have a lot of fond memories of going there, which I could be said for all of these, but this was kind of one of those ones where, like, if you got a good grade on a test or you got an award for playing sports or something, I was really into sports as a kid, surprisingly. Um, this was really high end, and if I could give it a grade of my experience, I would give it an A plus plus. I mean, I don't think I could say a bad thing about it. Um, I don't. It's been so long. I am fogging out on some of the details, like the service, and I'm sure the service was nice. But usually the two things I'm looking for mainly in a restaurant setting is the decor and the food itself. As I said, the decor was stunning. Like, they even had a back patio that you could sit out at during the summertime. And, a lot of this could be chalked up to childhood nostalgia, which I'm not going to deny. I liked my childhood, it was a good one. But, in my unbiased opinion, it is a restaurant that, if I could, I would recommend. Because, there are a lot of people like me who look for a good, excellent service. And a lot of these quick, like, pick up and go places don't offer that. And it's kind of why I miss the more fancy sit down restaurants. Um, I understand why, because I understand the pandemic was a huge thing, but having that sacrifice of being able to sit down and just converse with your family for a while is hard. Because, especially for someone like me, family is very important. And I feel like one of the best ways to do that is to be able to go out and have a nice dinner and talk about your day and stuff like that. It's just something that, you know, should be an option for those that have those kind of values. And sadly today it's not. We live in such a hustle and bustle culture that we don't take the time to appreciate the people that we love, and we tend to forget what's most important. So, when it comes to giving that family-friendly atmosphere, This restaurant definitely gets an A. Now, for my next restaurant, this is going to be number 8. It is Kroll's Diner. And I've been actually really excited to talk about this one. Yes, it is another localized Fargo, Moorhead area one. But you think of 1950s diner, this is exactly what comes to mind. And I was so excited to be able to go there last time I went down to visit with my brother. It was exactly how I remembered it. They had the leather seats, they had the neon lights, you know, it looked like it hadn't changed the entire time I have been away. And I got to be honest, it was excellent. Um, I really got hyped up making this video because I knew I got to talk about, one of my personal favorite restaurants of all time. Now, if you're in the area, I highly recommend you go out and check it for yourself. But I mean, I was so excited last time. I actually got a mug from there, uh, just to be able to take back with me. And it's one of those things where it's hard because they're locally owned, so you don't have the option of just. It's not like your Wendy's or Subway or, uh, your chain restaurants where they have stuff around everywhere. It is centrally localized. It's very limited, and I pray with every fiber of my being, that it stays open for future generations to enjoy. Like, the burgers were awesome, and my favorite personal thing, I know I shouldn't be having them, but my personal favorite thing, and I forgot to get it last time I was down there, but the chocolate shake. Their chocolate malts are just out of this world, which is kind of ironic because I just talked about another space themed restaurant. But no, you would you would be hard pressed to find another diner like this anywhere if in the north. Um, and I'm not saying there isn't any, but for someone who's from the um that general area, there is no other diner that I can think of that can compete with Kroll's Diner. And getting back to the atmosphere, it's like taking a time machine back to the 1950s. Like, you get that, jukebox and rainy day type of feeling. It is definitely somewhere I would have spent a Friday night had I been able to continue living there. And, um, I brag about it a lot, but it's just, it, we, that was one of the most frequented restaurants that me and my parents actually had, because that was one of the first restaurants we ever went to when we were in Fargo when we moved there. Um, we used to live in the apartments by the freeway, and for the first couple of years living there, that was one of our most frequented restaurants. And as much as I think it's important to move forward, I don't think there's anything wrong with holding on to stuff from the past too, as long as it's positive. And all I have of Kroll's Diner is positive memories. And maybe sometimes that's selective. I don't know for certain, but it's just something that I really, really hold near and dear to me. Uh, like I said, I would recommend to anyone who's traveling through the area to go there and check it out for yourself. You will not be disappointed. When it comes to the food, everything is delicious. Actually, last time I was there, I tried the country fried steak, and it was delicious. Their mashed potatoes were delicious. Um, I'm not normally one that likes to venture out, but I just had to try it for myself, and I was not disappointed in the least. Um, it was, and again, I have to give full props to this. It felt so good to be there with my family, and again, like having my mom, my dad, my brother there. It it really felt like the good old days. And sure, we haven't always seen eye to eye, but we were family, and family memories like that. It's what makes it important. Now, I think for my brother, it may have been the first time he actually went there. I'm not certain, but even so, just being able to sit around and have a conversations and talk, it, and just goof off, it was so relaxing because, like I said, it's important to focus on your family when you have the chance. Um, Coming in at number 9 is actually a local diner, actually. And remember how I said there wasn't, you'd be hard pressed to find a diner? Well, there actually is one that was a personal favorite of my mother's um, and father. Uh, it was called Junior's Diner, and it was, I'm thinking it's still there. I can't say for certain. It's been a while since I've been to Egan, but it is very close. Not quite, but close to being on level with Kroll's, which is the one I talked about previously. I couldn't even deviate from the menu because I always knew what I was going to order because the burgers are so darn good. Um, and the fries were like making crinkle cut fries. I have found for a lot of restaurants are tricky. You have to get the right texture, the right amount of salt, everything. The fries were something that they never got wrong, and that is something I was really amazed by because to make it perfectly every single time you visit, that is something that is very rare among restaurants. And it was one of the most popular choices among my family to go to when we had the chance to go out to eat, um, especially in the latter years because we lived so close to it. The staff, of course, were friendly. It was actually a smaller diner because it was in an outlet mall, so it didn't have much space to work with. But even with that limited amount of space, they had a lot, and they even had outdoor eating too, which was really amazing to me, because of the limited amount of space. But even so, they still managed to do it without any issues, and I applaud them for that. And the indoor was your stereotypical diner. You had the red, red velvet, or not velvet, but leather bar stools, the counter, the tables. And I'm very impressed that not much had changed um, since we didn't go there as often afterward. Since, the latter couple of years, my brother had moved out, I had moved away. We didn't get together that often to frequent, so when we did, it was kind of a special treat. Um, and just thinking about it now, I consider myself blessed to have been able to eat there, um, and share some of those times with my family. Because even though it wasn't necessarily Kroll's diner, it was pretty darn close, and my dad loved it. It was his top favorite restaurant to go to. Um, it was weird because it was one of the restaurants I didn't actually mind going to. Like if someone, usually what would happen is me and my family would take turns deciding, and whoever decided got to go decide where we went out to eat. And if someone suggested Junior's, I did not mind it as much because it was just really good. And of course, this one of the things I loved about the diner that I forgot to completely mention is that you got to see your food being cooked, and the way they made it was art. It's not. It goes beyond your basic cooking. It was art. I mean, I just watched those burger patties being made fresh. I know they were fresh because I could see them being made, and each chef that worked their station worked it like they had been doing it for years. Which I don't know when Junior's was first came to Egan. I haven't, I can't say for certain, but just seeing them work was like watching, watching a professional paid chef do work. You really got that 1950s American feel to it, and that was something that I thought was good, really difficult with such a small amount of space. But the way they managed to pull it off really blew me away. And you know, it's hard to find a restaurant that all my family could agree on going. But I know that if we were going to Junior's, that was something we could all agree on. And it was, like I said, it wasn't that long of a drive away anyway. So, it's one of those restaurants that, like, if you're ever in the Egan area, go check it out. Give it a try. I highly recommend it. And, I give it so much praise because of how well they managed to keep everything coordinated. And now for our final entry on this list, Burger Barn. Burger Barn is a now defunct restaurant in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. But the reason why I want to bring this one up is because it is, again, one of those ones that really pulls on my heartstrings. You could tell, like, I get choked up just thinking about it because every summer that me and my parents would go to our trailer and camp for the summer, that was one of the restaurants we would frequent. And it was so nice to see because it was like, mm, it wasn't really a diner, so to speak. It was more of like your, sorry, country music, or not country music, country style burger place. You know, it was someplace where you could go and stop for lunch or grab a quick bite to eat. Um, on the surface, you could just drive by past it and not think anything of it. But if you actually took the time to stop in and check out what they had to offer, you would not be disappointed. Again, one of the things I loved the most about them were the crinkle cut fries. And I say this because I know from experience how difficult it can be to find someone that can make crinkle cut fries exactly the way you want it every single time. And they never failed. Uh, and same with their burgers. Their burgers were like I cannot find a burger that closely resembles how that theirs were made, and that is really hard because at some moments, you know that feeling you get when you really want something but you know you can't have it because they're either not around or they're too expensive. That is the exact feeling I have when I think about this restaurant. And it wasn't just me that liked it. I have friends that ate there, um, family, and maybe it's a little bit biased, but I would again, if it was still there, I would highly recommend you go and check it out. Now, unfortunately, the Burger Barn has since closed. I'm not surprised. It was a locally owned restaurant. Um, there were no chains. There were no. It was run, I think, by family. I'm not entirely sure, but with everything the way it is now, rising food prices, higher competition with fast to go restaurants, it it must have been challenging for them to stay open as much as they did. And yeah, it broke my heart to see them go, but I was happy because I at least got to see how I got to experience it. I got to experience taste and the atmosphere for myself. And what I like, one of the things I liked about it was it wasn't a you have to sit down or you have to go. I mean, you could sit down if you want to. You could take it to go. There was it was casual, and part of me, again, I'm not gonna lie, part of me is biased because one, this is again an opinionated video, but there were so many summers where we ate there, and one of my biggest regrets is that we didn't that is closed, and we didn't get to go there the last couple of months we had our trailer over there in Detroit Lakes because if I'd known that it was going to close some day down the road, I would have tried to get there as many times as possible. And but even though you're not able to check it out for yourself, I still just wanted to tell you about it because great food and great service like that and experiences like these, they shouldn't be kept to someone's self. They should be shared and told so people don't forget about these restaurants and these like you have so many choices nowadays. You could pass by any of these and you would not take a second look back. But I as I said before, if you're ever in an area that has any of these restaurants, I encourage you to check them out for yourself. Have a taste of the food. Get a feeling of the atmosphere. I can guarantee you will not be disappointed. And, it's why I'm so passionate about it. Food runs in the family. Um, and I would never ever recommend a restaurant I didn't stand behind. Now, that is it for my top 10 list. But I thank you all for indulging me and letting me tell you about these wonderful restaurants. And again, I the reason I chopped it up into two parts is because I didn't want to take a full on hour trying to talk about each and every single restaurant at a time. But again, I appreciate you just listening to me talk and being able to share these experiences with you. Um, Life is hard. It really is. I'm not going to beat around the bush and say everything is perfect. And sometimes you just need an outlet to talk about the good things, and I'm privileged to be able to have that experience being a YouTuber and telling about these wonderful different places that I've eaten. Now, as I said before, this was just a top 10 restaurants in general series. There will be another video about my top 10 fast food places, which admittedly is kind of the lowest goal set of the post, but my next one is going to be the top 10 best pizza restaurants that I recommend. Top 10, top 5, it depends. I may do another two-part series on that, I don't know. Um, but I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to tell you about this, and thank you for listening. Um, and again, if you have a restaurant you'd like me to cover or look into, let me know down in the comments. I always look forward to trying new things, and I look forward to the engagement from my subscribers and my followers. So, with that being said, I thank you for listening to me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Alright, you guys have a great night. Talk to you later.